Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of this Asia Pacific Regional Conference. My name is David Daw, and I'm the conference secretary. Just a few reminders to start the day of Zoom best practices and etiquette so that we can make the meeting today function as smoothly as it did yesterday. First, please wear a plugged-in headset to get the best listening and, more importantly, speaking sound quality. When you are speaking, please remove your mask. If you're not speaking, please keep your microphone muted. If you would like to see the speaker in full page view, please remember to select speaker view instead of gallery view in the upper right corner of your Zoom screen. Interventions during all sessions, except for agenda item 11, which is tomorrow, will be on a first-come, first-served basis. So to request to make an intervention, please use the raise hand function in Zoom, and the Zoom software will indicate to the Secretariat the order in which hands were raised. Please note that on your own computer, you will be shown at the top of the list of participants. It's important to note this does not mean that you were the first one to raise your hand. Furthermore, some delegations will raise their hand using software other than Zoom and convey this information to the Secretariat. So based on all of this information, the chair will determine the order of speaking, and we kindly ask for your indulgence in this regard. In order to express appreciation of someone's contribution, please use the clapping hand function, which should be under reactions. Simultaneous interpretation is available in Chinese, French, and Russian via the interpretation button on the bottom toolbar. During breaks in the meeting, even if you step away, please stay connected to this Zoom link, or else we will have to let you back in through the waiting room. If you have any questions or technical problems, please send an email to aprc35@fao.org. We will respond as quickly as possible. And finally, the order of the day for APRC is at the website. I hope you've all taken a look at it already. Thank you very much for your continued collaboration and cooperation. And it's now my pleasure to hand the meeting to the chair, the Honorable Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forests of the Royal Government of Bhutan, Dasho Rinzin Dorji. Honorable Secretary, Dasho Dorji, you have the floor.
Thank you, David. Good morning, good afternoon, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I call the meeting to order, and to recap of the day 1 of the SOM meeting, I would like to believe that the meeting was successful in the sense that the deliberations were very rich. There was a lot of participation, contribution from the member countries, and then the technical glitch was very minimal yesterday. And I hope we will not have any technical glitches today as well. And I would also expect the same level of participation and contribution from all the member countries on today's agenda items. I would like to acknowledge the written comments received from a number of countries that have already been posted in the members' dialogue area, and I invite members to read these comments. The senior officers meeting shall now take up agenda item 20, results and priorities for FAO activities in the region. The relevant document is APRC/20/6 with its 5 web annexes. Without further delay, I would like to request Ms. Yao, FAO's Regional Program Leader for Asia and the Pacific, to introduce the agenda item for discussion. Ms. Yao, you have the floor, please, and you have 7 minutes for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Excellency Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning and afternoon to you all. I'm much honored to introduce to you the report of APRC titled "The Results and the Priorities for FAO Activities in the Region," as well as its web annexes. So this presentation is composed with 4 main contents. They are the main results achieved by FAO in the last biennium, the proposed regional priorities, an update on the development of the new strategic framework, as well as the guidance we sought from APRC. During the last biennium, 2018-19, FAO had been contributing to the country's achieving of the SDG Goal 2, including also the other goals, through its field activities and also the normative work at national, regional, and also the global level. FAO's work was guided by the 5 organizational strategic objectives, as well as the 5 regional initiatives in the Asia and the Pacific region. FAO has been continually enhancing its response to countries' needs by providing interdisciplinary and also quality technical expertise, as well as the policy advices through the country programming framework in countries, as well as in the full alignment with the 2030 development agenda. FAO has further emphasized our support to its members to foresee and develop actions in relation to the challenges at the country level, such as the effects of climate change, improving resilience to human-made and nature shocks and disasters, food and dietary diversification, and transboundary animal and plant pests and diseases. The organization has been proactively addressing emerging issues in the region as well, including, for instance, greater urbanization, changing food systems, increased regional and international agri-trade, and biodiversity losses. FAO delivers with the partners, including governmental institutions, regional organizations, international and regional development agencies, academia, CSOs, as well as the private sector. Specifically, during 2018 and 19, FAO developed high quality, yes. FAO developed high quality analytical products and organized high level events, bringing together diverse actors to showcase evidence and also share lessons learned, explore innovations, and also build momentum and partnership. So this slide, you can see, shows some major publications the regional office, in collaboration with our partners, developed in the past 2 years, as well as the high-level events we organized with the regional bodies, as well as other different stakeholders. All these events and also the flagship publications FAO developed have provided the foundation for the development of the same at the country level. In addition to this normative work FAO developed in the region, during the last biennium, FAO also implemented about 530 projects in the field, with a total delivery accounting for our US dollar $283 million. These projects directly supported the national agenda on food security and nutrition, as well as rural development in countries. With the projects, the national capacity was also strengthened for mid and long-term social economic development with the sustainability. As we all witnessed, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a serious economic downturn across the globe. And the impact of COVID has had profound impacts to food system and on most vulnerable, in particular the rural poor, throughout the region. So in this regard, FAO office introduced our work to support the countries to respond to the COVID yesterday with the details. But in the snapshot, I would like to introduce you that FAO has done quite a lot of job, including the rapid impact assessment, development of policy briefs, organization of roundtables and policy dialogues in partnership with our stakeholders in the region. And also FAO immediately allocated our TCP projects to support the country activities directly in countries. At the same time, we oriented our existing trust-funded projects and the programs in the countries more to the COVID responses. And also we put our efforts as well to support the countries to mobilize additional resources, specifically to respond to the COVID as well. So move to the regional priorities for the current biennium. So when developing our regional priorities in the region, we took the element showed in these slides as well as some others into our consideration. Meanwhile, you would recall that the 5 regional initiatives were endorsed by the 41st session of FAO's conference in June 2019. And also as noted by the recent evaluation of FAO's strategic result framework, the current regional initiatives as a mechanism for ensuring effective delivery and impact of FAO's work to the organizational strategic framework has their limitations. In this regard, FAO now is proposing an improved approach to the implementation of our work in this region during the current biennium. So right now, the overall number of the regional initiatives have been consolidated into 4, showed in the slides, while at the same time ensuring that their scope will be further broadened to address the important areas, such as the sustainable management of natural resources, addressing deforestation, and also the land restoration, as well as the sustainable water management and the utilization in the region. I think yesterday we heard quite a lot on those technical areas from FAO's introduction as well as the deliberation. So those enhanced regional initiatives will be anchored in FAO's work through the introduction of 14 programmatic areas of focus. So the setting of the 14 programmatic areas of focus in the region build on the country's needs and also the priorities. And they will be underpinned by normative work at both the regional and also the global levels. Among the 14 programmatic areas of focus, we consider the last 2, namely data and the digital agriculture, have more cross-cutting in nature than the average, and they will be embedded across the other programmatic areas of focus. We trust that this new arrangement will ensure FAO deliver more tangible and measurable results for greater impact, which also correspond to the evaluations that FAO did through this evaluation on FAO's strategic results framework. And we heard a lot of recommendations from the evaluation. And this approach is a kind of reaction and also response to the recommendations. Again, COVID have already had and will continue to have important impacts on food security, nutrition, and agriculture. We have to take the opportunities in partnership with others. So in this regard, FAO will continue to work with the members from the different perspectives. Again, yesterday, my colleagues introduced some detailed arrangement. So here in FAO, I would like to give you a snapshot again, I think, on what and how we are going to do to support our support, to provide our support to countries on their responses and the recovery from the COVID. They are FAO's umbrella program and the Food Coalition to respond to the COVID. And from the regional perspectives, we will ensure that the regional components will be fully and appropriately included in FAO's global action plans. In addition, the regional office is also developing the regional action sheets as well as the country project proposals in collaboration with our colleagues in HQ as well as in countries. We plan also to organize a regional dialogue on FAO's responses to the COVID-19 at the regional level, hopefully next month in October. The aim is to call for joint efforts and collaborations from various regional and global partners. And this dialogue, we anticipate will be support to the countries in mobilizing more financial resources as well as the technical forces for your COVID responses and recovery. So with the organization of the roundtable with ASEAN senior officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fishery and Forestries we had in the last month, we are going to further develop the proposed projects and operationalize the agreed collaboration with ASEAN countries. Meanwhile, with FAO's field projects, our work will be further oriented to the COVID recovery as we hear the guidance from the members. So turn to the development of the new strategic framework. As you are aware, the provisional outline of the strategic framework was presented and endorsed by FAO Council in July last year. And also we know that the Council as well as the Program Committee meetings will get together in the coming month and also in the spring of next year. So through all these discussions and the consultations, the final strategic framework and the midterm plan for FAO 2020 and 2025 will be presented at FAO conference in July next year. So when developing the new strategic framework, the organization takes the elements into our consideration, including the new normalization under the global challenge of COVID, the articulation of FAO's new results and framework under the overarching framework of the 2013 Development Agenda. And also FAO has been reviewing our positions among the UN development systems. And also we are reviewing the new global trends and the challenges and also the new DG and also the new management of FAO have already provided the new vision for a dynamic and innovative FAO. So regarding with the outline of the new strategic framework, here I want to very briefly introduce you several key elements for your kind attention. So like the current strategic framework, the new strategic framework will stem from the strategic objectives. They will be achieved through a proposed set of programmatic priority areas. And those priority areas will be linked to the global development trends and challenges, in particularly the ones facing by the food security and agriculture sector. The programmatic priority area will be embodied with the SDG tightly, and also in order to achieve manageable, sustainable results on the ground, the priority programs will work through new initiatives, such as the hand-in-hand initiative to develop evidence-based, country-led, and also country-owned solutions. Results will be measured through the SDG indicators, as well as through the non-SDG indicators for the areas not so as easily linked to the existing SDG indicators, such as FAO's normative work. In addition, norms and standards, including related data, information, and knowledge, are critical for FAO members' efforts to implement the decades of action for sustainable development and other multilateral agreements, and also to achieve the SDGs. So in this regard, the new strategic framework will further enhance the normative work in our structure, while we will also take the guidance from the regional conferences, and also we will have the consultative processes with the members to receive your guidance and inputs to the development of the new strategic framework. Meanwhile, IFAO's regional work will be further guided by the new strategic framework when it is done. And also adjustment to the regional work will be made whenever necessary. So with this, I would like to end my presentation with the last slides for seeking for your guidance on the below issues. Firstly, we would like you to recognize the results achieved by IFAO in the last biennium. We also would like hear your kind of guidance on how the IFAO should develop our new strategic framework with the continuation, and also your directions and also the guidance on how the regional office as well as the country offices should address our priorities for the current biennium and also beyond. We are very keen to hear your guidance and also your endorsement on the revised regional initiatives for the current biennium, with the 4 expanded regional initiatives supported by the 14 programmatic areas of focus. Last but not the least, very importantly, we would like to hear your guidance to IFAO on our support for inclusive and green recovery of agri-food systems and sustainable rural development from COVID-19 impacts. So that's all from my end. I turn back the floor to the chair. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms. Yao, for the good presentation that you just made. To the delegates, I think just to recap, we have just heard about the main results achieved by FAO in the region during the year 2018-19 biennium, and the work done to respond to the COVID-19. The paper also proposes an improved approach which consolidates with the regional initiatives, which will be supported by 14 programmatic areas of focus. In addition to the short and medium-term plan for COVID responses and recovery, it is expected that this model will also ensure the delivery of tangible and measurable results for greater impact, which responds as well to recommendations of the evaluation of FAO's strategic results framework. Ms. Yao also introduced the development process of the new organization strategic framework. I would like to acknowledge the written comments received from a number of countries that have already been posted in the regional dialogue area, and I invite members to read these comments online. With this, I would like to open the floor to the delegation. If there are any members who wish to speak on the agenda item 20, which has just been presented by Ms. Yao. And as done yesterday, the order of speakers will be based on the first come, first serve basis. So do we have anybody? Would any of the member countries like to take the floor? Okay, we have Malaysia. We have the distinguished delegation from Malaysia, followed by Thailand. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you, Ms. Yao, for the presentation. Malaysia would like to recognize the hard work of FAO in working with member countries to deliver the regional initiatives for the last biennium. We appreciate FAO's expanded partnership, including with ASEAN, and encourage FAO to increase collaboration with sub-regional organizations to advance the regional initiatives. On the new regional initiatives, we welcome the proposal to reformulate the initiative for the 2020-2021 biennium into 4 expanded initiatives, which will be supported by 14 programmatic areas. We support the continuation of the existing initiatives, particularly highlighting the importance of One Health in view of the current COVID-19 pandemic and its impact to human and the food system. We call FAO to share experience on how our food systems can better mitigate the impact and build its resilience. Now on the new regional initiatives itself, we have a little bit of concern that blue growth is subsumed into climate change initiative. Placing blue growth under climate change initiative could risk reducing the focus to only the environmental aspect and sidelining the economic and social pillars. Reading paragraph 77 and 78 of the document, we also find that the economic and social focus is somewhat lost. Noting the importance of economic and social contribution of fishery sector to the region, including on small-scale fisheries and small island developing states, we call FAO to put equal emphasis on socio-economic pillars of blue growth in revising the focus areas. On digitalization, Malaysia welcomes the emphasis on digital technology as a catalyst to improve agriculture planning and monitoring and increasing productivity and sustainability. However, we must be careful not to create more divide between multinational companies and smallholder farmers. Promoting digital technology in agriculture policies must be accompanied by targeted strategies for smallholders, such as education, incentives, financing, and private sector participation. On the country programming framework, we noted that FAO has revised its guidelines for planning and programming at country level to be fully derived from the UN cooperation framework. We look forward to more information on the entry point for FAO and member countries in the process and the cycle, holders and development partners from the start. With these observations shared, we endorse the report and the proposed priorities for FAO activities and for Asia and the Pacific for 2020-2021 biennium. Thank you.
Thank you, Thailand. That was very clear, and I think you have been you have indicated all the concerns that have been raised by the distinguished delegation from Malaysia. We now move to Thailand. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and also thanks to Ms. Yao for presentation. Thailand welcomes and appreciates the efforts of FAO on aligning its strategic framework to the agenda of 2030. The review of FAO's strategic frameworks and the consolidation of the regional initiative is timely, and we have more concrete perspectives after having faced it with multiple challenges in this couple of years, such as the upsurge of desert locusts, fall armyworm, climate change, drought, and transboundary disease such as African swine fever, and also the COVID-19. Thailand would like to focus our intervention on the following issue. With regard to the RI1 on the zero hunger, Thailand has launched the National Strategic Framework on Food Security of 2017 to 2021 to eradicate the hunger and malnutrition, contributing to the transformation of agriculture and food system. For the RI2 on climate change and sustainable management and use of natural resources, Thailand supports the work of FAO in providing guidance for political response and enhancing regional capacity for the sustainable fishery and the sustainable management of water, marine, land, and forest resources. We prioritize the work on water scarcity. The climate change has altered hydrological cycle and is projected that we will face more frequency of extreme events in the region, which result in the severe drought and flood. For the RI3 on One Health, and control of transboundary animal and plant pests and disease. This become utmost important than before. We state the need for FAO to provide technical support on the safety and standards of agricultural and food products, including tools and guidelines for AMR surveillance and on the prevention on the spread of transboundary animal and plant pests and disease from border trade. We also observe that the availability of statistical data is key to measure the achievement of SDGs. Therefore, it is vital to empower the statistical capacity development of member countries in understanding, implementing, and monitoring SDG indicators in the cross-cutting approach for all regional initiatives. We encourage FAO to provide advice and result-oriented recommendation to strengthen the governance and transparency and encourage FAO to leverage more resources to support the implementation of the project under the initiative for member countries to the country programming frameworks. With this statement, Thailand endorsed the reformulation of the original initiative for the 2020 to 2021 into the 4 RIs and also supported by 14 programmatic areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the distinguished delegation from Thailand. Thank you very much for your inputs and also for endorsing the report that has just been presented. Before I call on to the next speaker, I would like to remind all the distinguished delegations or delegates not to put on your mics if you are not speaking. If you are not given the floor to speak, please mute your mics because it is creating disturbance in other areas. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of China, followed by Philippines. China, you have the floor, please. China, are you there? The distinguished delegation from China, are you there? Can you hear us? No response. Can we move to Philippines? Distinguished delegation from Philippines, you can take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Philippines appreciates the efforts of FAO in addressing previously agreed regional priorities and the guidance on areas of priority for 2020-2021 and beyond to achieve coherent and significant results, especially at the country level. In general, we support the improved approach in implementing the regional initiatives that will ensure the delivery of tangible and measurable results. We appreciate the direction towards the integration of the Blue Growth Initiative into the Climate Change Initiative would not diminish the importance that FAO accords to the fisheries and aquaculture sector in the region. In particular, we would like to highlight support to the following. 1, the invigorated Zero Hunger Initiative, which would advocate for an inclusive and sustainable transformation of agricultural food systems, pursue collaboration with the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics and CGIAR for a joint program to promote underutilized crops and enhance crop diversification, support family members in the context of the UN Decade of Family Farming, with a strong focus on women and youth, and build members and regional bodies capacities for inclusive value chains and addressing food loss and waste. Number 2, the expanded Climate Change Initiative, which would support the scaling up of innovative aquaculture and fisheries practices and technologies for sustainable growth, improve country and regional capacities to analyze water scarcity and implement water policies and investment strategies in the face of changing climate and enhance country capacities to scale up climate change adaptation, mitigation, and disaster risk reduction actions, emphasizing nature-based solutions and climate-smart agricultural practices. And number three, the reinforced One Health initiative, which would strengthen AMR data generation, stewardship, and awareness, and boost national capacity to minimize adverse impacts of animal and plant pests and diseases on public health, livelihood, and economic and food scarcity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegation from Philippines. I would now like to call on China, followed by Myanmar. A distinguished delegation from China. Is there some problem there? Some technical problem? Can we go to Myanmar, followed by China? Myanmar, okay. You have.
I think I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can move forward.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I will not repeat again. So I would like to see China is fully understand all the adjusted regional initiative to address key priorities by FAO are based on its resources and comparative advantages and unique traits of Asia and the Pacific region to better respond to country needs. China strongly supports those new regional initiatives as we believe they are more structured and focused and of higher quality and bigger impact. China will actively participate in implementing the full adjusted regional initiatives. We will firstly share our good practices in areas including animal and plant diseases, control and prevention, poverty alleviation, and rural revitalization. Second, have closer cooperation with FAO on climate change, blue growth, One Health, and innovation and digital agriculture, among other initiatives. Third, support the development of SIDS. At this difficult time, we are ready to work together with all stakeholders to ensure regional and global food security and contribute to the attainment of the SDGs of no poverty and zero hunger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the distinguished delegation from China. We now move to Myanmar, followed by Indonesia. Myanmar, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and also thank you to Mrs. Yao for comprehensive presentation. Myanmar would like to express its appreciation to FAO. FAO should probably recognize for its program activities carried out in Myanmar according to the strategic framework and medium-term plans. Moreover, regional initiative programs are also helping to the regional priority in the area of strengthening food and nutrition, fostering sustainable agriculture and rural development, improving resilience to food and agriculture, and emergency in different aspects. In Myanmar, two line ministries closely collaborate with FAO. TCP programs are well defined and prioritized based on needs and conduct in work arrangement. So far, Myanmar is implementing such an effective TCP project to improve livelihoods through food security and nutrition, disaster risk reduction, red blood, afforestation, good practices in climate change adaptation in fisheries sector, livestock promotion, technology innovation and early warning in African swine fever, zoonotic risk and EMR, 4 Army 1 control measure, etc. Moreover, Myanmar was awarded the Global Agriculture and Food Security Gas Program for helping to reduce hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition. There, FAO is taking responsible for handling resources and conducting capacity building program. Apart from that FAO collaboration, technical assistance also offer in some government-owned programs financed by development partners and financial institutions. Moreover, rapid assessment of the impact of COVID-19 done by FAO is very helpful for development of recovery plan. Myanmar would like to appreciate FAO for its readiness and continuous support whenever it in needed situation for resilience of livelihood to natural hazards, disaster, and conflicts. Even pro-resilience action projects are being undertaken by FAO. Myanmar is also actively participated in RM programs like Zero Hunger Challenges, Climate Change Adaptation, and One Med, One Health Program accordingly. From now on, FAO initiation on hand-in-hand program will come up to each member countries. We believe that hand-in-hand program may open a new chapter and new platform, and absolutely it will provide opportunity for our region. Myanmar supports this initiation and ready to cooperate with its fullest cooperation. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Myanmar. Can I call on the distinguished delegation from Indonesia to take the floor, followed by Papua New Guinea, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Ade Chandra-Digaya. We actually have submitted our comments regarding this agenda item and appreciate FAO response to our comment. However, in this opportunity, allow us to highlight several key points. Firstly, we welcome the positive result of the FAO works, particularly within the framework of supporting member countries and address challenges of meeting and the SDGs targets related to the agriculture development and food security. Secondly, we can support the incorporation of strategy to tackle the effect of pandemic as set out in the medium-term plan, which has brought forward significant additional challenges to the region in terms of fighting hunger and malnutrition. In this regard, we are looking forward to start the consultation process for the formulation of the new country programming framework between Indonesia and FAO for the next 5 years. Thirdly, we appreciate FAO's continuous commitment to contribute to the ongoing development of national e-agriculture strategy in Indonesia, as we view that digital innovation in agriculture is essential in enabling member countries to create sustainable agriculture and food system, particularly in this current context of pandemic. We also appreciate FAO assistance and welcome its achievement in addressing regional priorities and initiatives, especially at country level, including regional initiative on zero hunger, climate change and natural resource management, One Health, and Blue Blood. Lastly, we encourage FAO together with IFAD and WFP to develop a systemic UN role-based agency approach to maximize impacts and support countries in achieving food security in a sustainable way, as we believe that multi-stakeholder partnership is a key in accelerating progress towards achieving SDGs. I thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Indonesia. We move to the next in line, that is Papua New Guinea, and followed by the Republic of Korea. New Guinea, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Papua New Guinea concurred with the FAO strategic objective framework and recognized the importance for better alignment with regional initiatives and sustainable development goals to ensure that appropriate SDGs are accomplished. It is also important that initiatives such as the hand-in-hand is well aligned to the country levels through the country program framework to match with national policies and priorities of agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and natural resources management, and to build capacities and ownership at country level. Papua New Guinea supports the FAO efforts on addressing zero hunger, which is well captured in the National Food Security Policy 2017-2027. So the objectives of zero hunger is taken care by this policy. Papua New Guinea also supports the work of FAO to mainstream biodiversity, as it regards biodiversity as a critical asset for food security. PNG also supports the FAO work on transboundary intrusion of animals, plants, and disease, and biosecurity, which PNG is benefiting from technical assistance from FAO with the recent entry of African swine fever and fall armyworm into the country. PNG acknowledged the critical role of FAO in provision of technical assistance to address these issues. In terms of malnutrition, PNG fully supports the work of FAO malnutrition because this is one of the biggest threats to food security in PNG, as indicated by the high level of stunting of 48% in Papua New Guinea. The problem of malnutrition is well addressed by the PNG National Food Security Policy and the National Nutrition Policy and other nutrition-sensitive national policies, including the regional initiative on seeds, which place nutrition as a priority. PNG also supports the FAO work on digital agriculture and would like to see more work in that space in light of COVID-19. PNG is well positioned to benefit from the digital agriculture initiative through the e-agriculture strategy 2018-2023, which has been demonstrated by the FAO development of an app-based livestock traceability digital platform for smallholder farmers in PNG using blockchain technology. With respect to climate change, PNG would like to support any initiatives to develop or promote suitable climate-smart agriculture technologies between Asia-Pacific countries through arrangement like South-South cooperation. Finally, PNG organized the work of FAO to address women in agriculture and supports the FAO work on mainstreaming women into national development policies. PNG, with the assistance of FAO, is in the process of mainstreaming through the formulation of a dedicated policy on women in agriculture to enhance women's economic empowerment and increase women participation in food and agriculture SMEs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Can we move to the next, which is Republic of Korea? Republic of Korea will be followed by India, the distinguished delegation from Republic of Korea. You have the floor, please.
Thank you very much for the floor, Mr. Chairperson. Korea highly appreciates FAO's contribution to achieving the sustainable development goals in Asia and the Pacific. For example, by providing advice on technology and policy to the member countries according to the strategic framework. Under the context of regional and national priorities, Korea is also contributing to improving livelihood of people in the region who are mainly dependent on agriculture. Korea is promoting projects to help our neighboring countries maintain sustainable agriculture by establishing agricultural production base with new technologies and enhancing the expertise with increased capabilities. Also, we expect expanding cooperation with FAO in smart farming for the next generation, rice value chain project for food security, and fish value chain project for small-scale fisheries in Pacific Islands. Especially as for the animal disease control, Korea is preemptively responding to the outbreaks of contagious animal disease by mobilizing all available resources. With such bold effort, we were able to contain the spread of ASF, or African swine fever, within just 23 days of its first outbreak, which could have been a major blow to the local pig industry. Furthermore, Korea has not seen a single case of HPAI or FMD this year. Based on our experience, Korea will support other Asian countries to enhance their disease control capabilities against transboundary animal diseases, including ASF. With this comment, Korea supports and endorses the reformulation of regional initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the distinguished delegation of Republic of Korea. Now, I would like to give the floor to the distinguished delegation of India. followed by Japan. India, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. Current unprecedented pandemic compounded by climatic change and consequent challenges for maintaining supply chains of safe, nutritious food. Agriculture is priority for us, and necessary agri-ecosystems were permitted to enable operations to carry on while adhering to necessary protocols related to sanitary and hygiene. Marketing of agriculture produce, manufacture and sale of seeds, fertilizers and pesticides, movement of agriculture machinery, cold storage and warehouse, these all services were provided. We understand our position of being exporter of rice, wheat, spices, fruits and vegetables, and that several other countries bank upon India to maintain supplies. But the alarming situation in many other countries for locust outbreak, it was really a challenging situation, but India very effectively averted the situation by strategic and operative actions, and locust has been fully controlled this season. And here the important point which I would like to mention is that we have a robust satellite-based agriculture assessment system. Pre-harvest crop area and production estimates using satellite data and models at national levels for major crops is being done. And again, periodic drought assessment of whole country using satellite agro-meteorological parameters are being used. So India has organized several training programs for other countries with the help of FAO, and these training programs were related to satellite-based agri-assessment systems, which we need to have. So improve agriculture productivity through sustainable natural resource management has been our priority, and large-scale adoption and here modern agriculture practices, those should be made available to the farmers. That's our approach, and here there should be the best utilization of the resources. For that point of view, soil health card system was started, and our farmers, they are having soil health cards now. So how to improve the agriculture productivity, that was the point. To improve the productivity, the seed has also been made available to the farmers for high yielding varieties as well as varieties with having tolerance to these abiotic stresses, because that's the big challenge. And another area is enhancing food and nutritional security system with focus on pulses, millets and horticulture crops. And last year, during the year 2019-20, record production of 320 million ton for horticulture crops were produced. And here again now our focus is on pulses, millets and fruits and vegetable crops and spices also. So here International Year for Millets will be observed in the year 2023. Now preparedness is on, and we call upon for support from all other countries for this program. So climate change is likely to impact all natural ecosystems as well as socio-economic conditions. So extreme weather conditions, they usually affect, and here drought conditions also prevail in the country, and it may affect our food basket. So that's why district-wise contingency plan that is now playing a greater role here. So here this kind of interventions we are having in the country, and here we are playing a role for providing support for many other programs, and we congratulate FAO and particularly for Asia Pacific region for their important interventions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, the distinguished delegation of India. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Japan, followed by Fiji, but please remember we seem to have forgotten this 3 minutes time limit. 3 minutes time limit. I call on Japan, you have the floor, please.
Thanks, Chair and Ms. Yao. At first, according to suggested action, we endorse the revised RLS into 4 expanded RLS. And Japan have 2 comments in item 20. Firstly, in paragraph 84, Japan believes that the role of forestry sector is as important as the role of agricultural sector in the same context. In Japan, through experience in many natural disasters, we make the most use of forests for disaster prevention and reduction for a long time. Also, currently, we take various measures to apply forest convention technologies and knowledge to enhance forest function for disaster prevention and reduction in developing countries. We expect FAO to promote further exports to use forest effectively in disaster prevention and reduction. Secondly, we would welcome the regional activity on AMR by FAO. Having said so, we would note that OIE also has carried out many activity on AMR and already collected and analyzed global data on ANU. Therefore, we request that FAO always cooperate with OIE on AMR to use limited resources effectively and avoid duplication. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. Thank you so much for your inputs. I now call on the distinguished delegation of Fiji, followed by Singapore. Fiji, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairperson and distinguished delegates, Fiji, thank you for the opportunity to make an intervention in this session, and thank FAO for the very informative presentation. First, the Fiji government acknowledges FAO for setting up its country office here in Fiji. The office was set up in 2016 following the APRC in Malaysia, and this has allowed Fiji the opportunity to work closely with FAO in implementing programs to help boost work on Fiji's food system. Since its establishment, the Fiji government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, supports the FAO country office through an allocation of Fiji 100,000 to cover operational activities. The existence of FAO country office provides technical support to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forests in various programs implemented in Fiji. On FAO activities in the region, on Zero Hunger, Fiji champions initiative on Zero Hunger in the region by adapting a multi-sector approach through the following activities. Fiji's National Development Plan includes food and nutrition security as a key priority area. And likewise, the Ministry of Agriculture SDP 2019-2023, food and nutrition security is the first priority. With the assistance of FAO, the ministry is currently working on formulation of national food and nutrition security policy, which involves 6 key ministries and reflects the multi-sector, and this reflects the multi-sector approach. In addition, FAO through the first program has assisted the ministry to build capacity for data collection and analysis to produce evidence-based decision making. FAO assisted the ministry to conduct the agriculture census earlier this year, which for the first time include forestry and fisheries sectors. It will also have for the first time disaggregated data on gender, which will help to estimate gender contribution to agriculture as well as identify gaps. And also the FAO assisted Fiji with the household income and expenditure survey in 2019, which for the first time produced the food insecurity experience scale. Food insecurity experience scale, sorry. On the climate change activities, the FAO and EU funded pro-resilient projects on strengthening climate resilience of communities for food security and nutrition with a particular emphasis on addressing drought. The project has components on climate smart agriculture, early warning system, and water management. In addition, the project is supporting communities and subsistence farmers to respond to adverse impacts of COVID-19. With respect to DRR, FAO providing technical assistance to support the ministry to establish a new unit on DRR through capacity development and strengthening institutional capacity, example on damage and loss assessment. Fiji would like to stress the importance of this initiative to the Pacific Island countries, as NCDs is one of the leading causes of deaths in many of our countries. Many people do not have access to healthy nutrition and affordable foods and often consume cheaper nutrition deficit foods. NCDs are a complex issue, and we need to address food and nutrition comprehensively through the food system approach. On the work with the Ministry of Forestry, Fiji government would like to acknowledge the FAO continuous support to Fiji and the Pacific on activities such as project for enhancing livelihood and food security through full fish aggregation devices and port state measures. Fiji supports the reformulation of the regional initiative for the 2020-2021 biennium into 4 expense regional initiative supported by 14 programmatic areas based on major trends and challenges in the region, including SDGs and climate change and experience with regional initiatives 2018-2019. Fiji also proposed to FAO to scale up and replicate successful FAO projects in Fiji, such as value-adding fisheries projects, data collection and analysis, etc. These projects have the potential to benefit a larger segment of the population and thus bigger impact on the food security and nutrition and on wider economy. Fiji recognize FAO to recognize that Fiji has a bigger potential in the Pacific to develop commercial agriculture and aquaculture and request FAO to provide support to develop it in a sustainable manner. And FAO to support Fiji and the region to strengthen interregional trade in agriculture and fisheries products, especially in light of COVID-19. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Fiji. Thank you so much. We have Lao PDR on the list, but before that, can I call on the distinguished delegation of Singapore to take the floor, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Singapore would like to thank FAO for the report on its results and priorities in the region. This is a very useful summary which directs our attention to priority areas for future FAO work. Overall, we are pleased that FAO's work remains highly relevant across all its strategic objectives and note FAO's efforts to align these strategic objectives with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its SDGs. We note the global developments and challenges that our region is experiencing and commend FAO on its strategic objectives approach to address major development challenges. For example, the food systems approach, which seeks to address the potential trade-offs between sustainability and productivity. We believe that the 4 enhanced regional initiatives will sharpen support for regional needs and help countries achieve the SDGs. For Singapore, we would like to stress the important role of innovation in transforming food systems to achieve the SDGs, and the need for it to remain as one of FAO's priorities for the new biennium. Such systems could include hydroponics and vertical farming, which leverage on technology and are highly productive. We encourage FAO to leverage on its comparative advantage to continue to deliver knowledge products and services at national and regional levels. We are happy to support FAO and contribute by partnering FAO to conduct capability building workshops on food safety, combating antimicrobial resistance, and urban food solutions. We believe that with our collective efforts, we are on track to achieve SDG 1 and 2 by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, Singapore. Thank you very much. May I call on the distinguished delegation of Lao PDR, followed by Cambodia, please. Lao PDR, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everybody. Distinguished guests, the chair. So the Lao PDR delegation would like to also express its sincere thanks or appreciation to FAO for strong support to Lao PDR, especially on the achievement of the zero hunger, improvement of the nutrition and food security, and various areas, including the locust outbreak control in the northern part of Lao PDR, the transboundary of animal disease control. Lao is also part of the One Health approach. The other area including disaster response and lately the COVID-19. However, the supports are coming to an end very soon. Therefore, we would like to request the continued support from FAO on those already supported areas. Sorry. Regarding the regional initiative, like aquatic resources also provide more than 44% protein intakes in the rural community of Laos. It would be also very good if Laos can be part of the Blue Growth regional initiative. I would like to thank you very much and finish my my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lao PDR. May I now call on the distinguished delegation of Cambodia?
Gentlemen, Cambodia fully support the result and priority for FAO activity in the region, and Cambodia committed to continue to work closely with the country office through our joint public program framework 2019-2023 and other regional initiatives such as climate change, One Health, as well as food security. The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, together with FAO support, we are formulating our agriculture development policy 2021 to 2030. Agriculture Master Plan 2030 and the e-agriculture strategy for Cambodia. In these connections, Cambodia would like to request FAO to mobilize resources to implement the mentioned priority and strategy in Cambodia. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Can I call on the delegation of Afghanistan, followed by Samoa? The distinguished delegation of Afghanistan, you have the floor, please.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairperson. First of all, we would like to extend our warm welcome and our willingness to work with FAO for the Regional Initiative Program. We strongly support and would like to work in conjunction with FAO to achieve the SDG goal of zero hunger and food security that strengthen the food security indicators. Afghanistan is the most vulnerable country in the world with the broken infrastructure and weak institutions following over 4 decades of devastating strife. Despite the significant achievements over the past 17 years, over 55% of the population live in extreme poverty line and above. About 39% required emergency food assistance prior to the pandemic. The priority areas we suggest to work with FAO are obviously the climate change mitigation and adaptation. As very recently we have been affected by the floods. 13 of our provinces were heavily lost the infrastructure. The second one is the production sector and inclusive value chain development, most importantly our staple crops, horticulture and livestock sector. The third one is the water use efficiency and irrigation infrastructure. And the last one is the regional trade policies, because during the pandemic, we have faced with certain challenges of trade with our regional countries for import and export. And the last one is the farmers' capacity building. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Afghanistan. The distinguished delegation of Samoa has the floor, followed by Australia. Samoa, you have the floor, please. The delegation of Samoa, are you there? Can we go to Australia? Australia, you have the floor, please.
Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Australia would like to thank the FAO on its work completed through the strategic priorities and the results and achievements under the 5 regional initiatives for the 18-19 biennium, in particular those relating to Blue Growth, One Health and the Interregional Initiative on SIDS, particularly the Pacific component. Australia advocates for the FAO to continue to prioritise work where it maintains a comparative advantage, and that is in the provision of policy advice, technical information and standards development and implementation, particularly around the control of transboundary animal diseases, plant pests and food safety, which affect food security and nutrition outcomes. We highlight the importance of FAO continuing to work with partners in the region to achieve the objectives within its mandates. Like others, I think including we've heard today already from Malaysia, I'd like to seek assurance from the FAO that the consolidation of the regional initiatives in which the Blue Growth regional initiative will be subsumed within the climate change RI does not entail a loss of focus on the Pacific and the importance of fisheries and aquatic ecosystems. Australia welcomes the FAO's initiative to help address the challenges of zoonotic disease risks, and we emphasise the need to focus on the high-risk interfaces across the wildlife supply chain, such as wildlife wet markets. And we emphasise the need for strong collaboration, including with the OIE and the WHO under the tripartite arrangement. We welcome FAO's commitment to the recent World Health Assembly resolution on the COVID-19 response, which reinforced the need for the tripartite collaboration to function effectively in order to protect against and support global efforts in managing the risks of zoonotic diseases. We welcome the continued focus on the control of transboundary animal and plant pests and disease. And as I think I said yesterday, we note though that the regional challenges such as African swine fever, antimicrobial resistance, and the emergence of novel diseases such as COVID-19 will require a matching regional approach. We also note the critical role that FAO has both in regional coordination and in supporting national biosecurity capacity in countries. However, the rapid spread of fall armyworm, coconut rhinoceros beetle, invasive ants, and African swine fever highlights the weaknesses in biosecurity, farm extension, and communications capacity and capability at both a regional and a national level, which is going to require long-term implementable solutions as well as immediate emergency responses. And we note that these diseases have a significant impact on the livelihoods and incomes of smallholder farmers and are also threats to biodiversity. We welcome the continued focus on food security, nutrition, and climate resilience in the Pacific. Australia encourages practical and demonstrated support for nutrition-sensitive food systems from the FAO and strong alignment with the SPC, given the overlapping mandates between the FAO and the SPC in the Pacific. And we note that the communique from the second joint FAO and SPC Ministers of Agriculture and Forestry meeting held in Samoa in October 2019 indicated a strong desire from ministers to see food and nutrition as an area for cooperation between the FAO and SPC. Australia encourages FAO to continue its focus on data and agricultural statistics as a critical area of work, particularly for the Pacific. High quality data and statistics are vital for the design and target of policies to reduce hunger, rural poverty, and to promote the sustainable use of natural resources. We welcome FAO's efforts to align FAO's strategic objectives with the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, and its commitment to developing effective partnerships with sub-regional, regional, and international entities, including ASEAN, SPC, Asian Development Bank, and World Bank, and with the private sector. We note that the strategic framework is currently under review and that FAO aims to better align the results framework with the 2030 Agenda. We also look forward to progressing several organisational changes for institutional strengthening of the FAO, which have been proposed, including the Office for SIDS, LDCs, and LLDCs. And we're keen to better understand how this office will work with the Interregional Initiative on SIDS to deliver and implement the Global Action Program on Food Security and Nutrition in SIDS. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Thank you so much. Can I call on Samoa, the distinguished delegation of Samoa, please, followed by Timor-Leste.
Welcome. Thank you, Chairman, and good evening from Samoa. Foremost, I'd like to confirm that Samoa supports the priorities for FAO in the Asian Pacific, and also would like to appreciate FAO's interventions via its sub-regional office for the Pacific, with our household and household income and expenditure surveys, the assistance with our national data validation for our second voluntary national review report on the implementation of the SDG of our Sustainable Development Goals, which was sent to the United Nations in July of this year. Samoa would also like to acknowledge the various projects that the FAO via the Sub-Regional Office for Pacific is assisting Samoa, especially with the post-harvest and value-adding fish projects in fisheries. And the other important intervention by the FAO is the assistance with our agriculture census, which has come in a timely manner as we develop our new 5-year agriculture and fisheries sector plan. We look forward to FAO to assist Samoa, especially with regards to the negative impacts of climate change, which is very common with the Pacific Island member states of our region, and we look forward to their assistance to ensure that our agriculture and fisheries resource management practices are in place, and that our climate resilience and risk mitigation efforts are strengthened and enhanced. As you know, Mr. Chairman, these exotic pests and diseases, such as the African swine fever, is slowly getting into the Pacific. And we also acknowledge FAO's assistance with public awareness materials to help us inform our people on the preventive measures of the African swine fever coming into our borders or into our country via air cargo or sea cargo. The other concern with us with regards to pest is the Guam strain of the coconut rhinoceros beetle, and we look forward also to FAO and other development partners to assist us with this, because the incursions of these two, ASF and rhinoceros beetle, especially the Guam strain, will pretty much destroy our economy. So we look forward to further discussions when these priorities are confirmed post-regional conference. Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Can I call on the distinguished delegation of Timor-Leste? Timor-Leste, you have the floor, please.
Mr. Chairman, Timor-Leste is appreciative of the FAO support to Timor-Leste on fostering intersectoral continuous dialogues for integrated actions to fight hunger and malnutrition in Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste also recognized that the FAO support for strengthening food security, information and agricultural statistical, which have allowed Timor-Leste to complete its first ever agricultural census and have an established system for information sharing and early warning. We also appreciate the ongoing support for promotion of climate-smart conservation farming practices. We look forward for the further strengthening and scaling up of the existing system and approaches to further improve agricultural production and productivities. County office capacity strengthening, in particular, a high-level representative in the country to lead high-level negotiation. In terms of regional priority, Timor-Leste notes the initiative already discussed by other countries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Timor-Leste. We come to the end of this session. I think there has been enough interventions that have been made. We had 18 member countries, delegations from 18 member countries making interventions to this presentation made by Ms. Yao. And three things are coming out very clear from these interventions. Number one, I think is a recognition of the work that has been done by FAO. There's an acknowledgement to the FAO for the support that have been received by the member countries. I think that came out very clearly. The second one was the endorsement of the program, the 14 programmatic approaches and a new strategic framework that the FAO has just presented to the conference. I think there's a lot of support for that. There's an endorsement for that program, and support not only in terms of approving or rather endorsing the program, but also making offering of other technical and also things like capacity building programs. So there's a lot of support and endorsement for the program. But at the same time, I think the member countries also raised many concerns, such as the blue growth, value chain, climate change, animal disease, pest disease, the forestry sector, the socio-economic concerns. So I think all this needs to be included in the FAO program that is being developed in the new strategic framework. So once again, let me thank all the distinguished delegation from all these member countries who have made the interventions. I'm very sure that with your interventions, the program and the new strategic framework that has been developed by FAO will turn out to be much better after these interventions. With this, I would now like to request the FAO Secretariat to respond to the questions raised by the distinguished delegates on agenda item number 20. You have 5 minutes for this. FAO Secretariat, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency Chair, and also thanks the delegations for your very insightful and also comprehensive interventions, as well as the guidance and the questions raised to FAO. We take all good notes on your interventions, and all this guidance will be further guide our development of the new strategic framework and also our further framing of the regional priorities as well. I think for the interest of the timing, I would like to briefly respond to some of the questions and the interventions raised by the delegations, even though not all of them in details. Yes, I think, yeah, first, the concern from the delegations on the combination of the Blue Growth regional initiatives into the regional initiative on climate change and also the natural resources management and utilization. And as I introduced that, those four regional initiatives will be underpinned with the 14 programmatic areas of the work. And you would also have noticed that among of those 14 programmatic areas of the work, we have a specific one that will focus on fishery, aquaculture, also including the combating of IUU. And also in practice, FAO has been strengthened our technical capacity at the regional level to work on the fishery sector. In addition, we also, I think, are going to place this module arrangement institutionally to support our more efficient and effective deliveries, including our work on fishery sector. So this programmatic area of focus, titled, for instance, promotion of social economic inclusion, will be further kind of integrated with other programmatic of areas of the work, including this fishery and aquaculture and combating IUU as well. So with this modular arrangement and also this integration of the different sectoral and the streams, the social, economic, and sustainable environmental dimensions will be further combined, integrated with this food system approach, rather than we go by sectoral approach. For instance, this fishery sector alone, or the livestock alone, or crop sector alone. So with this kind of arrangement, so we aim to have a more integrated consideration and also the solutions for these 3 dimensions of sustainability. And also for this delegation's recommendation on the importance of the digital agriculture, as well as innovation, and also their role to the COVID responses, as well as their focuses on the small farm householders. I think those comments are well taken. And in our operation and also the implementation of the regional programs, we will put all this into our consideration. I think, as always, the small farmers, as well as the most vulnerables, are our most targeted communities and the groups when we operate our field activities. And also the comments from the delegations on the collaborations across the UN agencies, in particularly WHO and OIE, in the circumstances of the COVID, as well as other transboundary animal and pest diseases. We are collaborating with them, and also this tripartite agreement provides a very good foundation for our collaboration with other 2 agencies. And also here in the regional office, as well as at the country level, we always, go hand in hand with those two agencies. And also we have the focal point here, sitting in the regional office coming from OIE. So all this institutional arrangement helps us to further foster our collaboration with the other 2 agencies. And also I think the COVID requires us to do so without any other choices. And also at the country level, FAO country offices have been actively and proactively involved in the formulation of the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. And this cooperation framework very nicely positioned, I think, all the UN agencies on the areas where they have comparative advantages. So underneath, FAO uses its country programming framework to detail our operational arrangement and also our plan to further implement those committed responsibilities that FAO would make in this joint UNCT collaboration framework at the country level. So with this, I think, we aim to deliver more and also more tangible and also more measurable deliveries with the efficiency. But at the end, I think I would like to appreciate very much the delegation's recognition, good recognition of FAO's work done in the past 2 years. And also we very much appreciate your agreement, general agreement on this new and improved approach with the 4 consolidated regional initiatives, as well as this 14 programmatic areas of work. In terms of the collaboration with the regional bodies, we have been working with the ASEAN and also SPC, but we will further strengthen our collaborations with the guidance here from the delegations as well. So that is what I can respond, but we will continue working with you and also keep you in the loop in the development of the new strategic framework. And we also would welcome your guidance in our development process of the new strategic framework. And I also thank the chair for your very nice summary of the session already. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Yao, for the very clear and crisp responses that you made to the issues that have been raised. And also thank you to the FAO Secretariat for the assurance that you will take all this into consideration and try and integrate them in your strategic framework. With this, we come to the end of this agenda, and I would like to now announce that this agenda item is closed. We are doing quite well on the timing, and if all the member countries, if the distinguished delegation from the member countries are able to keep to the time limit of 3 minutes, then I think many of the delegation members are going to be able to get this opportunity to make interventions. So this time in this agenda, we have 18 member countries making interventions, but if we are able to stick to this limit of 3 minutes, then I think it can double. The participation and the opportunity to intervene will double. So with this, now the senior officers meeting will now move to the agenda item 21, which is decentralized office network, and the relevant document is APRC/20/7. I believe the paper outlines the global policy developments, including COVID-19, which are shaping the work of the organization. These developments require FAO to continue to review and align the organization's policy and technical capacity to the changing context, needs, and priorities of the member countries. The paper further outlines measures being taken within the region to provide support that is responsive and tailored to the region, with special attention to the specific needs of SIDS, LDCs, and LLDCs. And to conclude, the paper will also present for consideration some suggested actions on the way forward. And for this, I have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Nelima Okoya, who is the FAO Network Officer, to present the paper. Ms. Nelima, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Jongjin Kim, Assistant Director General and Regional Representative. If you allow me, let me present this agenda item.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome, Mr. Kim.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen, this is my great pleasure to share with you the status of decentralized offices in Asia and the Pacific. As a background, since the last APRC, several global policy frameworks have been developed, such as the UN Decade of Actions on Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Decades of Actions on Nutrition, and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. All these global frameworks have influence on FAO's work in the region and country level. The United Nations General Assembly Resolution 72/279 on repositioning of the United Nations system is another major development in the global arena. The regional and sub-regional dimension of development cooperation is also very important as countries seek to capitalize on opportunities and strive for the region-tailored solutions to common challenges. Of course, of all the developments, this COVID-19 pandemic is surely the biggest influence on the work of FAO. Last year, as you all know, FAO welcomed the new Director General, Mr. Chu Dong-yu, who has ushered in changes to align the organization with the evolving development landscape. Some of the key challenges include, first, in response to the ongoing pandemic, FAO has launched this comprehensive COVID-19 response and recovery program. The objective is to mitigate the immediate effect of the COVID-19 while strengthening the mid to longer-term resilience of food systems and livelihood. Second, support the small island development states or SEEDs, least developed countries, and landlocked developing countries. This is an organizational priority. FAO firmly believes in the principle of leaving no one behind. And the new dedicated office in the headquarters has been established to harmonize policy support and technical assistance for this purpose. Next, ongoing review of strategic framework, as we have just discussed under the previous agenda item. Lastly, but not the least, transforming the organization. This includes restructuring of the headquarters and, as a follow-up, the field offices, including regional and country offices, to achieve an organization that is fit for purpose. This will further reduce bureaucracy and improve flexibility to respond to emerging needs and priorities so that the organization is more dynamic and flexible. Within this context, I'd like to share with you how the regional and country offices are positioning themselves to respond to the highlighted development and changes. First, the regional office has been mobilizing its human and financial resources, which have been deployed to the country level to assist the member countries respond and recover from COVID-19. Country offices continue to receive technical and operational support and guidance on impact assessment and response planning in FAO's mandated areas, and those conducted in collaboration with other UN agencies. Second, the regional and country offices have embraced the UN reform as an opportunity for better collaboration with the UN system around the SDG agenda and other regional issues. The regional office is catalyzing and harmonizing policy and technical support to countries within the context of a UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or UN SDCF. This offers an approach that allows the UN to achieve accelerated impact at the country level. The regional office is also actively participating in the discussion on the configuration of UN regional architecture towards greater efficiencies in supporting member countries. Third, inclusive partnership for innovation and technology in agriculture. This will be further emphasized. To align with the newly established Office for Innovation in Headquarters, the regional office is developing a regional strategy on how to assist countries with e-agriculture and the digitalization of food system and agriculture. To achieve this, it will be imperative for country offices to engage with a broad coalition of partners that includes the international financial institutions, private sector, research institutions, universities, as well as the civil society organizations. Fourth, the regional and country offices are increasing efforts for resource mobilization by developing business opportunities to scale up results and impacts to achieve SDGs. In addition to traditional donors, there are increased opportunity and increased efforts by the decentralized office network to source additional funding from Global Environment Facility, or GEF, Global Climate Fund, or GCF, and enhance investment opportunities in the countries. Engagement with the private sector is also being actively pursued. Fifth, support to the small island developing states will be enhanced through a thematic focus on climate change, small-scale fisheries, and value-sharing development, among others. And by providing leadership in the implementation of Global Action Program on Food Security and Nutrition, or GAP, in close collaboration with regional bodies, as well as support to the national data systems. To accompany these measures, the regional office will continue to strengthen technical and operational capacity within the region by enhancing corporate efforts to further decentralize key administrative and operational processes. This includes increased delegation of authority over country operations, improved monitoring and evaluation of program activities, and boosting capacity to report on the results achieved. Considering these factors, the regional office proposed the following actions. Continued support to decentralized offices to assist member countries to respond and recover from COVID-19 as the priority. Second, sustained engagement in the UN development system repositioning, strengthening policy and technical capacities to respond to the SDG agenda, pursue inclusive partnership and resource mobilization opportunities, forge ahead with the adjustment of decentralized offices business model, and the further delegation of authorities in the management and the use of resources. Thank you very much for your attention. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. That was a very excellent presentation that you made, and we would like to thank you for that. And to all the members of the delegation from the member countries, I would like to apologize for the little confusion that was caused. I called on Ms. Nelima, but the communication that I received was a little late. Ms. Nelima was being replaced, and of course, we had the utmost pleasure of, very good pleasure of having none other than the ADG, Mr. Kim, making this presentation. So once again, thank you very much for this presentation. And then I've been asked to acknowledge the written comments received from a number of countries that have already been posted in the regional dialogue area. And I invite members to read the comments online. With this presentation, I would like to open the floor to delegations that wish to speak on agenda item 21, the usual first come, first served basis. I can see some hands that the distinguished delegation of India has the floor, followed by the delegation of Thailand. India, you have the floor, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and distinguished delegates. Thank you very much, the Assistant Director General, Mr. Kim, for the excellent presentation. And we would also like to appreciate the excellent paper provided by the FAO on the Decentralized Office Network. We appreciate the priority of FAO to revamp its decentralized offices business model in line with the United Nations reforms. We commend the FAO's efforts in accelerating critical milestones of SDGs, focusing on eradicating poverty, hunger, in line with the newly launched flagship hand-in-hand initiative through the decentralized offices. Mr. Chair, considering decentralized perspectives and headquarters level organizational restructure, country offices should be more empowered to respond to emerging needs at the country level in line with the member country's demand. Respect each country's uniqueness and priorities, and accordingly, structure of the FAO's country office should be incorporated with member countries' demand and requirement. India is a large country and culturally diverse and unique. FAO needs to work more closely with the government, that is more departments of Government of India, in order to share global best practices and disseminate emerging policies and technologies to other countries in the region. At India level, considering the size of the country as a subcontinent, we would like to propose, like the other WHO and UNICEF offices in India, a sub-regional office status given to FAO office in India should help FAO to deliver its mandate with more impacts and results. We appreciate FAO's support on response to control transboundary pests and diseases, especially the fall armyworm, desert locust, and African swine fever. And we could control it in no time. And we are happy to share our experience with the other countries. I would also like to mention two things here, Mr. Chair. There is an excellent coordination with the country offices. The highest office, the Minister of Agriculture and the Secretary of Agriculture visited country office to discuss the problem of locusts. So I would only like to say that this kind of coordination is very, very important. With this, I would like to conclude my statement. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over to you.
Thank you, India. I would now like to invite the distinguished delegation of Thailand, followed by Republic of Korea. Thailand, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thanks to Mr. Kim, FAO ADG, for the presentation. Thailand appreciates the FAO efforts aiming at increasing its capacities, efficiency, and flexibility responsiveness to members' needs. We support the proposed change of the decentralized office business model and the increased reliance on partnership in line with UN developing system reform. We encourage FAO to continue conducting the consultation with member countries, including through the regional conference and the regular inclusive consultation with the RBA's representatives to develop a substantive member-owned strategic framework and in line with the SDGs. In light of the ongoing transformation in countries' food and agricultural system and under the current challenge circumstance, we stress the important roles of FAO in delivering its technical and policy support and the working partnership to develop region-specific solutions and address challenges of transboundary nature, especially through the technical cooperation program, South-South cooperation, as well as the hand-in-hand initiatives. We support the FAO to shift towards a full programmatic approach at decentralized level to better demonstrate its expertise and valuable contribution to assist members toward the SDG achievement. Finally, we request FAO to evaluate, identify, and seize emerging opportunity arising from UN reform at all levels, contributing to the great impact on ground and successful experience in close collaboration with partners and in the RBA environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thailand. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Republic of Korea, followed by Malaysia. Republic of Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the floor, Mr. Chairperson. Also, I thank you, Mr. Kim, for the nice and compact presentation. I highly regard FAO's great effort at strengthening the capacity and functions of decentralized offices while enhancing cooperation with other UN agencies. These efforts have been directed at effective projects by reflecting priorities and challenges at country and regional level. As part of a structural adjustment approved at the 164th FAO Council meeting, the Office of Support to Decentralized Offices at FAO's headquarters has been closed. This has raised some concern to member states, as this might weaken the operations of decentralized offices. In this context, I'd like to ask for full support from the Asia Pacific Regional Office as well as headquarters, so that the decentralized offices in the region can operate as usual and continue to achieve its results. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues, the centralized offices are further emphasized as they are at the forefront of efforts to support member states. Setting up systematic response plans with adequate budgets by APRC headquarters and regional offices will be critical in this regard. Meanwhile, I have high expectations as regard with FAO's effort at development of a new business model for its decentralized offices and exploring innovative business model of partnership and liaison offices to enhance cooperation with stakeholders. In Korea, my country, the Partnership and Liaison Office was launched last year, and Dr. Shen Yao Tang was appointed as head of the office in July in this year. Under his leadership, the office has been smoothly operating amid the COVID-19 pandemic. With his extensive experience and expertise, I believe he can contribute to turning this FAO's office in Korea into a center of excellence in South-South and triangular cooperation. The Seoul office is the first PLO in Asia and Pacific region. Also, the situation in Korea is somewhat different as compared to the other countries where 5 PLOs are located. I'm assured of the important role of Korea's PLO in establishing a new PLO business model. I believe the Seoul office will serve as a hub to effectively share hosting countries' experience and policies with member states by boosting a network of academia, private sector, civil society, as well as government. It will also raise awareness about key projects and missions of FAO, namely achieving zero hunger, while coordinating cooperation between the Korean government and FAO. I look forward to having continued support and attention from the Asia Pacific Regional Office for Korea PLO to contribute to establishing a good model. The Korean government is ready to join this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Republic of Korea. I now give the floor to Malaysia, distinguished delegation from Malaysia, followed by the Philippines. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you to ADG Kim for the presentation. Malaysia recognizes the important achievement of FAO Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific in the region as listed in paragraph 24 to 37 of the document. In the last APRC, we collectively recognized the need for increased efficiency, flexibility, and capacity of decentralized offices, and to tailor its support to countries' specific needs. As such, we welcome this document to improve the way we operate and better contribute to the SDG. We fully support the decentralized decision-making in administrative and programmatic areas, including human resources and procurement, to improve overall delivery of the strategic programs. It is important to reflect on the development at the headquarters, like has just been mentioned by my colleague from the Republic of Korea, on the disbanding of Office of Support for Decentralized Offices. We noted this could help the decentralized offices in reducing bureaucracy by allowing them to directly access to the respective divisions. But in order for this to work, more authority needs to be delegated to decentralized offices. We support the proposal in paragraph 37 of this document to improve decentralized offices' performance by adding new skill areas that are increasingly requested in the region. We recall FAO's proposal presented to the 128th session of the Program Committee and approved by the 164th session of the Council to strengthen evaluation function at decentralized office. On this note, we call for the creation of evaluation teams at these offices to oversee and support evaluation activities in the region and countries. We recognize that decentralized offices do not have all the expertise to respond to the new development and different challenges faced by countries in the region. An analysis of gaps and skill mix exercise are therefore crucial to identify skill sets that we would need to improve at decentralized level or where direct assistance from headquarters may be required. Overall, we support the global and regional dimensions of the proposed way forward listed in paragraph 38 through 53 of the document. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the very clear submissions that have been made. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Philippines, followed by Bhutan. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Philippines supports FAO management's continuous efforts to boost operational efficiencies through the decentralization of key management and operational processes, increased delegations of authority, improved monitoring and evaluation and reporting capacities at the country level, and the strengthening of internal control systems. We understand that the recent change introduced by the Director General into a more modular and flexible organizational structure is aimed at efficiency, effectiveness, and cross-sectoral collaboration, including in decentralized offices. In this regard, we concur with the request of the 164th session of the FAO Council for headquarters to continue its full support to decentralized offices to ensure the organization's impact at the regional, sub-regional, and country levels. We appreciate FAO's recognition of the diversity of country needs in the region, to which the decentralized offices require flexibility, a dynamic skill set, and alternative ways of working to help members achieve their development goals. For instance, middle-income countries like the Philippines would need more support in policy advocacy and resource mobilization to address increasingly complex problems and trans-border challenges, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, African swine fever, fall armyworm, and the banana wilt disease, TR4. We encourage FAO's enhancement of inclusive partnership at the regional and country levels with other UN partners, the private sector, civil society, parliamentarians, academia, and non-state sectors, including smallholders and family farmers. For instance, we commend FAO's initiative in strengthening the FAO Legislative Advisory Group in the Philippines, FLAG-PH, and in collaborating with NGOs such as the AFA, the ANGOC, and the Asia DHRRA. The region would further benefit from optimizing cooperation with the youth and private sector, particularly in innovations and technology to harness digital agriculture. We therefore welcome the thrust for decentralized offices to be fully engaged in the FAO digitalization process and promotion of innovations in the field to accelerate progress in delivering the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Philippines. I now give the floor to the distinguished delegation of Bhutan, followed by Papua New Guinea. Bhutan, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies and delegates, on behalf of the delegation from Bhutan, I would first of all like to applaud FAO for proactively engaging in addressing the current COVID-19 pandemic situation and its impact on agriculture and food. Indeed, the situation that we are passing through gives us a further realization of the very important role of FAO officers in respective countries. Bhutan has indeed been very fortunate to receive FAO support since 1972, a decade before we became a member of FAO in 1981. Ever since FAO opened its office in Thimphu in 1985, our collaboration has evolved steadily. Mr. Chair, Excellencies and delegates, as per the Constitution of Bhutan, we have pledged and are committed to maintain 60% of our land under forest cover for all times to come. This has manifested into globally relevant outcomes of Bhutan becoming carbon negative country, an organic country, clean environment, land degradation neutrality, and above all, working on the principle of gross national happiness. Bhutan, perched in the Eastern Himalayas, all these developments gave a unique perspective of agriculture and natural resource use in Bhutan. Therefore, the aspiration to transform Bhutanese farming aligned to its overall national agenda and conservation policies challenges us to innovate and develop agriculture sector in the areas such as mountain farming systems and sustainable and resilient food systems. Finally, under the demanding circumstances, we realized the benefit of decentralized FAO operations at the country level, not disregarding the enormous contribution of FAO in Bhutan in the current and emerging situations, enhanced professionalism and operational capacity backed by commercial resources of FAO Bhutan seems most relevant to be able to deliver what Bhutanese agriculture sector needs. Therefore, in line with the agenda item 21 and our humble submission, we would like to draw FAO's attention to enhance the capacity of FAO office in Bhutan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the distinguished delegate from Bhutan and my colleague. Thank you so much. I now invite the distinguished delegation of Papua New Guinea to take the floor, which will be followed by China. Papua New Guinea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Papua New Guinea supports the FAO's decentralization policy, as it was one of the 3 countries that was recommended and endorsed by FAO for this exercise that started in 2012. FAO established a country office in Papua New Guinea in 2013. Since then, the country has developed into an active, functional country office. The presence of an FAO country office has made a big impact to PNG, as indicated by the significant increased number of projects, funding for programs and projects in agriculture, forestry, fisheries, climate change, biosecurity sectors, and emergency and humanitarian assistance. FAO is currently involved in providing technical and funding assistance to PNG to contain and control the spread of African swine fever and fall armyworm in the country. Through FAO and World Food Program technical and funding assistance, PNG has an active food security cluster operating in the country, assisting the country to address emergencies and humanitarian issues specific to food and nutrition security needs. The FSC is currently active in coordinating response to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on food and nutrition security in PNG. The importance of FAO presence in the country has been recognized by the national government and other international development partners. This year, FAO has been chosen by European Union to be the main executing agency for a rural development food and agriculture program in PNG. This program is called Support to Rural Entrepreneurship, Investment and Trade in PNG, which has a budget of $100 million and will focus on value chains of cocoa, vanilla, fisheries commodities in 3 provinces of Papua New Guinea. This trade program is unique as it will integrate hard components such as transport, infrastructure, improve energy access with sub-components such as financing, training, market access, trade, and other value chain support services for communities, facilitated by the sustainable implementation of digital technologies, services, and solutions under a conducive business environment to foster and stimulate climate resilience, rural development activity. The Straight PNG program components and its multi-stakeholder implementation approach exemplifies the hand-in-hand initiative promoted by FAO. The government of PNG is confident that with the joint collaboration of FAO and other UN agencies and international and local stakeholders, the Straight program can be successfully delivered. Finally, the government of PNG recognized the important role of the FAO country office in the country and fully supports its operation to deliver suitable programs, projects, and activities to improve food and nutrition security and contribute to agricultural development in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of China to take the floor, followed by Japan. China, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And also thanks to Dr. Kim Zhongzhan, FAO, for the great picture of decentralized administration of FAO in the future. All of us know decentralization has been discussed and modified for decades among administrative agencies of governmental, non-governmental, and semi-governmental. China highly appreciates FAO's decentralization efforts, which is an important process in the context of UN development system, repositioning and reform, and helps to improve efficiency, save resources, and more effectively assist countries in moving forward SDGs. Noting the challenge that the new corporate structure and operation model may pose to the organization when authority is delegated to decentralized offices, China suggests that FAO strengthen resource sharing and collaboration with UN and other organizations, reinforce capacity building, and improve rule and policy support of organization at the headquarters level. It is also important that FAO leverage the role of the Western coordinators to strengthen the communication and cooperation between FAO's country representatives and other UN agencies, country offices, for bigger collaborative capacity, greater synergies, and stronger impact in hosting countries. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegation of China. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Japan, followed by, and please excuse me if I am not able to get this name right, this is called Tuvalu. The distinguished delegation of Tuvalu will follow after Japan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair and Dr. Kim. Japan recognizes that UNDS reform can contribute to improving the efficiency and consistency at the field level in order to achieve the SDGs. In this regard, Japan welcomes and supports the UNDS reform by the Secretary General of the United Nations. On the other hand, our concern is that the strengthening of decentralized office network will decrease the function of FAO, such as normative work as a specialized agency of the United Nations. Therefore, we request FAO to keep ensuring these advantages in terms of technical functions as a specialized agency of the United Nations. And Japan is looking forward to strengthen decentralized office network, collaborating with other international organizations, including RBAS. Therefore, we request FAO to keep ensuring these advantages in terms of the technical functions as a specialized agency of the United Nations. And Japan is looking forward to strengthen decentralized office network, collaborating with other international organizations, including RBAs, to conduct the effective project implementation at the field level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Japan. I now call on the distinguished delegation of Tuvalu, followed by Samoa. Sir, you have the floor. Sir, ma'am, you have the floor.
Hello.
Chair. Yes.
Chair. Can you hear me?
Chair. Hello, Tuvalu.
Is it
Mr. Chair.
Tuvalu or Tokelau?
Tuvalu. Mr. Chair.
Please go on. Please go on.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for extending the opportunity to Tuvalu to make an intervention at this point in time. Now, our interventions is not so much related to the agenda item, as we wanted to make interventions in earlier parts. But in any case, we are using this opportunity to make interventions, given that this is the only opportunity it's been given to Tuvalu. Tuvalu appreciates and wish to congratulate FAO on the excellent work they have done, and very much support the FAO proposed initiatives. Tuvalu is a small island state, as we all know, where imported food supply is seriously under threat. In the unprecedented outbreak of COVID-19, people have been encouraged to increase their activities in farming and fishing. Most of the small income generating activities performed by women, like market vendors, selling of cooked meals, handicraft productions and services, are critical to support household food security. Tuvalu recognized the different degrees of the impacts of the disruptions of economic activity and agricultural value chains on food security. With that being said, ethno nations such as Tuvalu, being considered most vulnerable, would likely to be severely affected. The destruction is again shared by other members of the Pacific Islands who have made earlier interventions. The destructions of Cyclone Tino early this year further compounded the impact of COVID-19 for Tuvalu. Tuvalu recognized that actions to address the impacts of COVID-19 on food security needs to be swiftly accelerated and informed by ideas and practices from the Pacific region that are best suited to the Pacific region context. Although regional and the member countries are reorienting their resources to address some of the immediate priorities in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, a significant injection of financial resources is urgently needed, not only at the regional level, but more importantly at the country level. The government and the people of Tuvalu underscores and appreciates the unprecedented support it receives from international and regional organizations such as the FAO and SPC, and therefore welcome FAO regional initiative to ensure that food security and agricultural issues in Tuvalu and the region are appropriately and adequately addressed. On that note, Tuvalu recommend FAO to step up its effort in establishing agricultural statistics database, strengthening the capacity of integrated agroforestry and livestock production system, and promoting feasible food chain trades, both domestic and international. Mr. Chairman, the Tuvalu delegates wish you all a very successful conference and fruitful deliberations. Our hope and prayers that the decisions taken over the course of these two-day meetings will certainly lead to real and lasting changes. Mr. Chairman, thank you for giving Tuvalu the opportunity, and looking forward to the rest of our today's sessions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegation of Tuvalu. And I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Samoa.
Chairman, for the opportunity to speak. Samoa thanks the FAO for the paper and suggestions provided. Samoa welcomes FAO's efforts to enhance collaboration with other UN agencies and improve engagement with member states, especially to ensure effective implementation of the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals. We need to stress the importance of extending this close collaboration with other regional organizations in the Pacific, such as the Pacific Community, Pacific Islands Forum, and the Forum Fisheries Agency, in which the existing 14 member states of the Pacific in our region are also members of. We need to work closely with Pacific SIDS in delivering on the SDGs and many of our priorities on food and nutrition security, agriculture, and fisheries. Samoa also welcomes the Dedicated Office for Small Island Development States, least developed countries, and landlocked developing countries, and prioritization of support to SIDS and their specific needs, particularly in the Pacific. This is an important contribution to the implementation of the Samoa pathway. Mr. Chairman, the issue of decentralization was discussed last year on the sidelines of the second joint FAO and SPC Pacific Ministers of Agriculture and Forestry meeting that was held in Samoa. And the ministers have already made a position on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you so much, the distinguished delegation of Samoa. Now I call on to the distinguished delegation of Tokelau. Distinguished delegation of Tokelau, you have the floor, please. Which will be followed by Cook Islands.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Please
okay,
go on.
Thank you, Chair. Been seeking an opportunity to give Tokelau a small intervention since last night, but finally, thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving us the opportunity. Tokelau gives its full support for FAO results and priorities for FAO activities in the region, and also the decentralized office network presentations tonight. Tokelau acknowledges the support FAO has offered to Tokelau in its TCP projects in agriculture, namely strengthening capacity in home gardening, healthy food awareness, and effective biosecurity for Tokelau. The project ended in December 2019. In previous years, our TCP project have included small-scale fisheries, and Tokelau look forward further to TCP projects, particularly in areas of agriculture, food security, and coastal fisheries. I'd like to quote from the new incoming FAO Director General, Q Dong-yu, in his inaugural speech in July this year, saying that there is no security without food security. No one should be left behind. In saying that, I wish also to support previous speakers on the call for FAO to continue its support for members and global communities' COVID-19 effort. Tokelau is a small atoll nation in the middle of the Pacific with nil experience of COVID-19 as yet. I would therefore like to congratulate the efforts being made by all countries, particularly countries in our Pacific community, like New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, and close to home, Samoa, for their efforts to combat COVID-19 and keeping Tokelau COVID-19 free. Indeed, Tokelau is very grateful for them on the pandemic front for their leadership roles and technical assistance to Tokelau in effort to contain COVID-19 in the region. With a population of just 1,400, Tokelau, with other atoll nations of the Pacific, are the most vulnerable islands in the world. With travel restrictions now in place, Tokelau's food security will greatly be impacted. However, the dangers posed by COVID-19 is that a single mishap in our biosafety could prove very fatal to Tokelau's long-term survival as a people. Food security, Tokelau seeks further support from FAO in areas, particularly in farming, our marine coastal resources, to enhance food security in Tokelau. Thank you all.
Thank you, the distinguished delegate from Tokelau. May I now call on the distinguished delegate of the Cook Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Followed
First,
by
the Cook Islands.
Please go on. Please go on.
Firstly, the Cook Islands office's congratulations to Mr. Kim as our new ADG. The Cook Islands would like to highlight the need to our Director General to continue to support decentralized offices to ensure FAO's impact at my country's level. This allows for ease of access to technical support and technical assistance that has been provided to the Cook Islands through the country office based in Samoa. I am informed that management and administrative streamlining will ensure that FAO remains well connected at regional, sub-regional, and country levels. But for my small country, ease of access to FAO support, including other regional partners, is vitally important for our various TCP and multi-year programs that includes fisheries, agriculture, and our proposed agriculture census in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your intervention. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Fiji, followed by Pakistan. Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, Fiji thank FAO for a very informative presentation on FAO decentralization policy. And Fiji supports FAO decentralized offices network. And will always be grateful to FAO for the establishment of your country office in Fiji, which have greatly impacted development of Fiji's agriculture and food system. On that note, Fiji proposed that FAO strengthen the capacity of its country office in Fiji, given that most UN agencies are headquartered here. It will also allow for better engagement in the UN system. Through this initiative, Fiji solicits your support in considering a fisheries specialist to be based in Fiji's country, FAO Fiji country office. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, the distinguished delegation from Fiji. May I now call on the distinguished delegation of Pakistan to make your interventions, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to all the distinguished delegates. We would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Government of Bhutan and the Regional Secretariat on making this first ever virtual regional conference a successful reality. My delegation welcomes the report on the decentralized offices. We welcome the steps taken by the FAO in shifting towards the best governing policies through enhanced decentralization. As have already been pointed out by many distinguished delegates, my delegation also calls upon the organization to further strengthen and autonomize the country offices, particularly keeping in mind that my region is in double jeopardy as it is hit by the worst desert locust threat in last 25 years, in addition to COVID-19 pandemic. So there is a need to further strengthen and autonomize the country offices. Lastly, Mr. Chair, my delegation would like to stress that the designation of new sub-regional offices is a substantive matter and requires further deliberations by the members. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. May I now call on the distinguished delegation of Lao PDR, followed by Cambodia. Lao PDR, please.
Thank you again, Chair, for the opportunity to share comments again. First of all, I would like to express sincere thanks on behalf of Lao delegation to FAO for its remarkable support to Lao PDR. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry of Lao PDR has been working hard in hand in hand with FAO since decades at both policies and implementation levels to address the food security and nutrition in Lao PDR. FAO as a specialized agency provides technical support on the improvement and maximization of the agriculture for smallholders in Laos, while making agriculture more resilient to climate change and all emerging challenges. I would like to also thank FAO for the great support in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. The findings from the impact assessment well informed the development of the response plans for us. On the contribution to the UN reform, FAO has been well adjusted itself to the change and working well hand in hand with partners, development partners in Laopedia towards achievement of the country priorities and to the achievement of the SDG. Finally, I would like to express our warm welcome, and we are committed to tightening the collaboration with FAO and looking forward the continued support on the sector, the agriculture, forestry and rural development in Laopedia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your interventions. I would now like to call on the distinguished delegation of Cambodia, which will be followed by by a designated CSO, and this too will be the last interventions before we close the program. Cambodia, you have the floor.
Yeah, Excellency Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Kim, Assistant Director General, for your comprehensive presentation, and also FAO for the continued support and partnership both at the regional and country level with the flexibility in order to achieve the priority and goal of the Sustainable Development Goal. The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries of Cambodia is continuing to work with the country office through good coordination and partnership with all stakeholders, including private sector and academia in the sector, and at the country as a whole through the government and development partners. These also including the UN agency and NGO coordination structure through clinical working group in the country. In Cambodia, FAO is playing a very important role. It's not only as a partner but also as a co-chair for the technical working group on agriculture and water, and always with us to co-facilitate with all the members. As mentioned in my earlier intervention, resource mobilization will be key to achieve the objective, which are very much in line with the government priority and the emerging issue of COVID-19. Therefore, Cambodia welcome all support and look forward to working with FAO and others. Finally, thank you to the FAO in general and the country office for the excellent cooperation and partnership. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much to Cambodia. We will now have a designated CSO speaking on behalf of the CSOs, and I would like to invite Ms. Marlene Ramirez, which is to be followed by a private sector after that. Ms. Marlene, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We members of civil society and farmers organization in Asia Pacific who are engaging in the 35th FAO APRC takes cognizance of FAO's effort to focus through the regional initiatives approach to create bigger impact on chosen priorities at country and regional levels. And taking heed of the recent evaluation recommendations, a new set of broadened yet consolidated regional initiatives have been defined, anchored on programmatic areas of focus for more tangible and measurable results. This is a forward, quick action, reflecting commitment of FAO to institute change and innovate, a new strategic framework, the reorientation towards SDG 30, the new regional initiatives with cross-cutting agenda, the FAO country programming framework, which will now be derived from the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework at national level, are important steps to achieve greater results at the national level. It is fitting that the earlier agenda results and priorities and decentralization are tackled in the same session, for these two are inseparable. But the question that we CSOs wish this conference to bring to bear is, where have CSOs and family farmer organizations been in all these at the regional, sub-regional, and national levels? And I bring back the question of my CSO colleague yesterday, where were we at the table or just on the menu? We express our concern that in most of these important processes, strategic planning, regional prioritization, review, and assessment, we have not been as meaningfully engaged other than reacting to these important developments during the biennial APRC. We believe that this important effort of FAO and member states to improve coherence and coordination would benefit from engagement with CSOs and farmer organizations in more systemic way through regular consultation, integration, and FAO programs and activities, and obtaining inputs and feedback from them at all levels. We do appreciate the reference to our organizations in item 53 under partnerships of the results and priorities report, and the involvement of CSOs in some programs as reported in item 33 of the Decentralized Offices Network. And we thank FAO for this, but we believe that there could be more opportunities for productive and inclusive engagement if the mechanisms for regular and sustained dialogue and consultation at different levels beyond the biennial APRC are in place. Along this, we call on member states and FAORAP to institutionalize inclusive and transparent mechanisms for CSOs and farmer organizations to meaningfully participate in the development of FAO's new strategic framework in shaping the MyPOW and contributing to monitoring and review of FAO programs and activities in the region and at the national level. It is engagement at that national level which is most relevant to many of us, as policies and programs will be more directly impact on our constituents. Lastly, we call on FAO to give priority attention to and share the results of this year's independent evaluation of FAO strategy for partnership with CSOs in the spirit of responsible, inclusive, and genuine partnership. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Marlin. Thank you so much. May I invite Mr. Graham Dixie? Mr. Graham Dixie, representing the private sector. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. My name is Graham Dixie. I'm the Executive Director of Grow Asia. We are a multi-stakeholder partnership, but we were asked by FAO to do a consultation with the private sector. We spoke to 50 countries, companies, and 10 different networks of companies. And this is what I will summarize as their views. In particular, I would like to thank Ms. Yao for her statement. It was very good to see that the DG's new statement around putting food back into agriculture, into the Food and Agriculture Organization is really beginning to happen. And we're keen to see how that actually plays out. And I would congratulate FAO on its ideas about devolving. It's so true, that aphorism, that you can think globally, but actually the results and the delivery is done locally. Turning to the private sector, they often think in terms of comparative advantage. And thinking about FAO, there were three that really stood out about FAO: data, analysis, and learning. On learning, it's very impressive, FAO's online learning programs. These have fantastic reach. It could be extended more to the private sector. And what we've heard the private enterprises talk about is that they would be that the SMEs and all businesses are keen to learn. They're keen to learn about HACCP, food safety, how you reformulate products, how you run tractor contract operations. The private sector is keen to work with the FAO online training to create those learnings, to raise the whole standards of the way that the agricultural enterprise operates and therefore supports the farming sector. Secondly is the point around data. With increased computer power, increased data, this is a comparative advantage that FAO is uniquely able to do, and we suspect it will enable you to operate in ways that you hitherto have not done. One very good example, and I think these have been alluded to by Maximo Turo, but these are around actually building up a much stronger benchmarking between countries and between producers. We know that a really powerful way of changing people's minds is when they compare themselves with their competitor, with their neighbor. And these could be things around how far, where they are in the stages of agricultural transformation, the ratio of agriculture to agribusiness, etc. Thirdly, is we hear constantly different ideas of what the future of farming would look like. But we need clarity about really what are the implications of that and how that could deliver or won't deliver for an expanding and increasing demand for food products. So actually being able to set out scenarios of what smallholder farming, smallholder organic farming, medium scale farming might look like, or mega farming, what are the implications of that would help us all in knowing the realities of the different options for us in the head. And then just turning finally to one final point is the point around, and we were delighted to see Ms. Yao make reference to reaching out more to the private sector. Talking to the private sector about this, there is the question about how do you do that? And this has been alluded to by Indonesia, but we've also seen it in Cambodia, in Myanmar, in Vietnam, in Philippines, and most recently in Papua New Guinea, is that if you create a multi-stakeholder partnership, that brings together the private sector, the producers, and the public sector. If that dialogue can happen, the balance of probabilities is that it makes better decisions. And we can see anecdotally a number of countries around the world. Australia is a good example. Denmark's a good example. The Kenyan horticultural export industry are all examples about that, and it can work. The important thing for us all to remember, and FAO to remember, and countries to remember, is that partnerships are considered to be like motherhood, a good thing, and therefore easy. They're not. You have to be able to understand one another. And at the moment, there is a gap between the private sector's mindset and the public sector's mindset. There is a different attitude to risk. There's a different attitude to time, which is very important for the private sector, and there's a different attitude to responsiveness. So that if we open our eyes to and build the trust between us, understand each other's positions, then those kind of partnerships can really happen. And I would just add that we have found the regional office to be wonderfully responsive. And we know that there are difficulties and lots of changes going on in head office that has resulted in them being slower to respond to some of the things that have been submitted. But I'll leave it at that. We look forward for a future participation and a combined approach so we can bring together the collective brains of the public sector, the private sector, the producers and civil society into having a common definition of what success looks like. Over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixie, for your inputs. We now come to the closure of this session on this agenda. Agenda item 21, which is about decentralized offices network, and I'm glad to report to all the member countries here that there were 17 interventions made by the delegations from the member countries, one from the CSO representative and one from the private sector. Altogether, 19 interventions have been made. And common to all these interventions, what I noticed was the interest of all these member countries in the new business model that we are talking about, and that is, I believe, that is also contained in the new strategic framework. There's also a recognition from the member countries of the benefit the countries have been deriving from the existence of country offices in the countries. Those who do not have, I'm sure they would want to have one in their countries as well. But at the same time, the general notion that I got was that there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of room for improvement in terms of coordination, in terms of empowerment, delegation, decentralization, and many other things. But I'm not an expert on this. Not an expert to answer on this. So I'm going to hand over the floor back to Mr. Kim to respond to all these interventions in 5 minutes, please. Mr. Kim, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I first thank you all the enriching comments and also very valuable recommendations. We of course take all this into consideration in our management and operation of decentralized office network. I want to also thank the kind recognition of the member countries of our achievements, FAO decentralized network, in responding to the needs and demands of the country offices and providing assistance to achieving SDGs. I'm grateful for generous support to the proposed way forward on this decentralized network as well. Among the various important comments, I would like to provide my perspective on a few topics. One is regarding the abolishment of OSD, Office of the Support to the Decentralized Offices. As the issue has been discussed at the Program and Finance Committee and the Council, basically, this is to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness to the support of decentralized offices by the headquarter units, reducing the bureaucracy and increasing efficiency. So the business owners in the headquarters like CSH on HR matters, they are directly providing support to the decentralized offices. Also on budget and finance matters, OSP will be directly support the decentralized offices. Other business areas as well. At the same time, there is a small unit to provide coordination of this headquarters support to the decentralized offices directly under the Office of the Deputy Director General. So we believe that this transformation in the headquarters will further reduce the bureaucracy and improve efficiency, and any possible impact could be addressed through the business owners in the headquarter units, as well as the coordination unit under the Deputy Director General. In regard to the several comments on country office capacity, we acknowledge that the need for the dynamic skill set and the alternative ways of working to match the changing environment and member country needs. In the last couple of years, headquarters and the regional office have been engaged in a review exercise of the decentralized offices on the configuration, the structure, as well as staffing models, basically to assess the capacity vis-a-vis the needs and demands of the member countries. I believe the result of this exercise will feed into the forthcoming the review exercise of the decentralized office network as follow-up to the transformational change of headquarters, and further improvement of business model, basically by providing further flexibility and further increasing the delegation of authorities for managerial, administrative, operational procedures. So basically through this, FAO is aiming at more dynamic and innovative and flexible organization to fit for the purpose and timely respond to the needs and demands in this rapidly evolving environment. Mr. Chairperson, if you allow me, I would like to invite the Deputy Director General, Mr. Laurent Thomas. He has been attending this meeting because this is a very important dialogue between FAO and member countries, and he has been closely following all the discussions. And I think this is a good opportunity to share his perspective on this very important topic. Perhaps if you allow me, I would like to invite him.
Yes, Mr. Kim, it will be a very good opportunity for us to listen to the Deputy Director General as well. So the intervention by the Deputy Director General is most welcome. We would like to welcome you to this session and also speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me turn over to the Deputy Director General, Mr. Laurent Thomas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, for inviting me to take the floor at the occasion of this historic first ever virtual regional conference. And thank you to the government of Bhutan with the support of the Secretariat to make this event such a success. I am following closely the debate, and I want to thank all the members for their contribution that will help us to better transform FAO as your organization to better support your goals in achieving the Agenda 2030 in the region. I think we acknowledge the opportunities emerging from the virtual mode. It has made it possible to broaden the participation, including UN, private sector, research institution, and we will have all to learn the lesson from this new mode of organizing the regional conferences, hopefully when COVID-19 pandemic is behind us. We acknowledge the transformations that are taking place in the region, and we have taken due good note of your support to the strategic priorities as presented this morning. This will help us shape the new strategic framework for FAO, because we sincerely believe that regional conferences are foundation of the governance of the organization. And this is really the starting point to make sure that the strategic framework of FAO reflects the priorities you want to see for FAO to support your own priorities. With regard to decentralization, a few words. We have taken due note also of your support to the approach. I can ensure you that the Director General wish to see the structures, the organization, the capacity of the decentralized offices to evolve. After the first wave of reforms that was approved by the Council with headquarter restructuring, breaking the silos, delayering the organization, making management more agile, we intend to proceed applying these good principles to the decentralized office network. In fact, some work has been done with the regional representatives, and they were presented, the main point were presented in the paper today. We aim at making country offices more empowered so they can respond faster to the need of the government. This is something that has been acknowledged by several evaluations, that FAO needs to improve its capacity to deliver timely results. The organization is still too slow, too heavy in the bureaucracy. So we will be working with the regional representative in the coming weeks and months to make sure that we progress and we continue progress made with this regard. Some progress has been made, for example, in terms of a number of administrative processes that have been already delegated further to the region, but it's clearly not enough. So I can just ensure you that we will progress. We want to make sure that this organization, the new digital FAO, be in a better position to support your strategic priorities as you highlight during the regional conference. So thank you very much to all of you. I will continue to listen with a lot of attention your debate to make sure that we support your guidance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Mr. Kim for providing those clarifications, and also thank you to Mr. Thomas, the Deputy Director General of the FAO. It was a pleasure listening to you, and also it was very nice to listen to you in terms of the clarifications that you provided, in terms of the assurance that you are providing to all the member countries. Once again, on behalf of all the participants who are actually attending this conference, I would like to thank you for being here with us, to the Deputy Director General. And with this, I would like to declare the agenda item 21 is concluded. And at this point of time, I would like to request the rapporteur to present the summary of agenda items 20 and 21 before we break. Ms. Vanida, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me provide a summation of our morning session, Bangkok time. Item 20, results and priority for FAO activities in the region. Countries welcome the action taken and the results achieved in 2018 and 2019 in addressing regional challenges and the process being undertaken to align its programs with the developing new strategic framework and organizational structure. Endorse the 4 regional initiatives and 14 regional priorities, including the 2 cross-cutting ones. Emphasize that One Health has become even more important than before due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Advocated and invigorated Zero Hunger Initiative and strong focus on blue growth in multiple subsectors of fisheries and addressing water scarcity within the very relevant and much required regional initiatives on climate change. Supported the important role of FAO in supporting members in the region to achieve the SDGs, notably SDG 1, 2, 5, 6, 12, 14, and 15 that cover the core areas of its mandate. The recommendation from the country to FAO. 1. Implement the regional initiatives and priorities through the programmatic approach with a clear focus on delivering tangible and measurable results. 2. Develop concrete plans and actions for inclusive and green recovery of agri-food system and rural development from COVID-19 impacts, as well as technical capacity development in climate smart practices and nature-based solutions. 3. Continue focus on important issues such as ending malnutrition, building resilience to multiple risks, control transboundary plant and animal pest and disease management, promoting food safety and standards, and combating antimicrobial resistance, including collaboration with UN agencies and technical institutions. 4. Promote partnerships with regional bodies and inter-regional trade to implement region-wide development and action plans and place the smallholders and most vulnerable populations at the center of its work. Incorporate innovation and technologies actively in its work, including through national e-agriculture strategies. For item 21, decentralized office network. The meeting welcomed FAO's continued engagement in implementation of the UNDS repositioning at regional and country levels and to better collaborate with other UN agencies and respond to the 2030 agenda. Supported the strengthening of policy and technical capacity to ensure FAO leadership in the region across relevant SDGs, including those under FAO's custodianship, and to contribute effectively to the new UN cooperation frameworks and common country analysis to expand new partnerships and increase resource mobilization. Welcome the dedicated Office of Small Island Developing States, least developed countries and landlocked developing countries, alongside the prioritization of support to SIDS and their specific needs. Requested FAO to continue to pursue the transformation and strengthening of capacity of the decentralized office and adjust the business models to ensure greater responsiveness to country needs and effectiveness in the use of organization, financials, and human resources. The last one is noted and requested further measure for increasing the autonomy of the decentralized offices at regional, sub-regional, and country levels on decision-making in administrative and programmatic areas, including over human resources, procurement, and evaluation. That's all for the morning session. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Venida, for your submission. And without further ado, I would like to call on the Conference Secretary, David. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, sir. I have one short announcement for everybody. We are now going to take a short break and we will reconvene at 1500 hours Bangkok time. That's a little bit more than 1 hour from now. So thank you very much for all your enthusiastic and excellent participation this morning, and we look forward to seeing you again in 1 hour. Thank you.